Donald Trump may have clinched the Republican nomination a long time ago, but the primaries, they are still giving him a headache, folks. This week, Nikki Haley, yes, Nikki Haley, she actually received more than 20% of the Indiana Republican primary vote. This is despite dropping out more than 2 months ago. And according to new reporting from the Wall Street Journal, Haley has no intention of endorsing Trump, at least for now. At a donor retreat this coming week, quote, she isn't expected to discuss her political future or encourage them to give to other campaigns. NBC News has since confirmed this report. Olivia Troy is back. I would also like to note, I know there's reporting from Axios that says Nikki Haley is on the Trump campaign's list. And I think the Trump campaign and Donald Trump, very important language, I highly doubt.
Nikki Haley ain't on Donald Trump's list for anything. That's just not happening, right? I mean, come on.
No, she's already crossed that line.
You know the man. You know how he thinks and how he operates. There's no way he's going to put that kind of aggressive opponent on a ticket with him, number one. And number two, someone that he knows when he needs to do certain things will do those certain things. And that's not Nikki Haley. But here's the problem with Nikki Haley. You don't get to play it both ways. You don't get to run the kind of campaign and say the kind of things you did and move the country towards your corner only to then come out and go, hey, you know, I kind of like Donald Trump and I'm going to endorse him because he's the party nominee. And as the Wall Street Journal is reporting, she's huddling with her donors and won't endorse Donald Trump yet.
Is doing a lot of work.
Thank you, Alicia. Is doing a lot of work. So how do you see this, having been inside that bubble, and how those machinations come about? What do you think is going on with Nikki and the campaign and the timing? Because this is what we're talking about ultimately, is with the timing of whatever she's going to do, which I think probably will be endorsing Trump.
Yeah, look, I think what she's doing is she's building out her groundwork, her network, and building her own profile politically, right behind the scenes. I think that she's looking at the future. What does this mean for her? I think she is eyeing another run at the presidency later on, and she's just trying to figure out, how do I navigate this Donald Trump phenomenon that's here for a long time? It probably will be here for a long time after, because it's bigger than just Trump, let's be honest. It's Trumpism as a whole. But I think she's also kind of like, my future, though, will be zero if I don't fall in line and support him. And so I think we've talked about this before, and I get a lot of criticism from my Republican colleagues that I am not all in on Nikki Haley. And I'm, as much as I would want to support someone like her, I don't have respect if you're going to go out there and pretend that you're this person with integrity and then take it all back and come out and say you're going to fall back in line, you're going to support him.
Wind up doing Bill Barr.
Yeah, and what does that mean for the voters? The people that are voting and supporting her still right now, even though she's not really a candidate still, I worry about the direction that she's going to lead those people when she does come out eventually and support Donald Trump. That's my concern.
The way that Chairman Steele qualifies the bar that you have set is he has described himself as being greedy, that it is not enough for him, for Republicans to come out and say they're not going to vote for Donald Trump. You have to go that extra step. And sometimes I worry that the chairman is setting his aspirations too high. But that's why I wanted to give credit where credit was due, because this week you had the former Georgia Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan writing a piece, Why I'm Voting for Biden and Other Republicans Should Too. From that piece, unlike Trump, I belonged to the GOP my entire life. I like that little burn slipped in there. This November, I am voting for a decent person I disagree with on policy over a criminal defendant without a moral compass. And my question to both of you is, does that carve space out then for other Republicans to do the same?
I think it does. I really applaud the Lieutenant Governor. Lieutenant Governor, thank you. Thank you so much, because that's the voice that we need for Republicans like Olivia and myself who have not stepped forward, to give them that permission structure that it's okay. Your house ain't going to catch on fire if you vote for Joe Biden. Your neighborhoods aren't going to kick you out of the neighborhood. They're probably voting for Biden, too. So everybody can just calm it down, right? I mean, this is the permission structure that you need. Look, we have policy disagreements with the Biden administration. Certainly, you can start from Afghanistan and you can go to any number of other issues. But I weigh that up against the guy who says he wants to be a dictator. And guess what? Biden wins every time. I don't know. Maybe it's me, but I think that's what we're looking for. What do you think?
Absolutely. I think he talks about character. and that, the office of the presidency, it should be someone with character. And I think that's important. And I think what we're seeing is a complete lack of character across the Republican Party right now from a lot of individuals who have become sort of co-opted into this thing for their own political cravenness and stature. And, I think I have a lot of respect for Jeff Duncan. I think, it's hard in the world of Republicans right now to take that stand, and I'm glad that he's willing to be consistent. His own, friend, Governor Kemp, certainly wasn't.
Right.
He just fell back in line, even though he faced what happened in the 2020 election, which was super disappointing to watch him do that, because he knows firsthand the danger of what Donald Trump is and the danger he is to undermining our democracy. I saw that Jeff Duncan's predecessor called him, he said every village needs a useful idiot. I saw that quote about it. And I would argue and flip the script on that and say, actually, no, I would argue and say that the idiot found a useful village with all of these complicit and enablers across the Republican Party who refuse to chart a different path for the party.
Yeah.
She's talking about, for y'all that missed it, she's talking about Donald Trump. Donald Trump is an idiot, and the villagers are the Republican Party apparatus. There are many. It is the Jeff Duncan endorsement. There are many warning signs for the Trump campaign. I would note, I have not heard them talking about opening offices. Right, the things that you need to do to win a campaign are not hold rallies on the beach on Saturday morning, where you say that tens of thousands of people are coming, but we will check it out. We will check the numbers with the fire marshal, and I don't believe that that's what we're going to hit. The way you win campaigns is you open offices, you knock doors, you hire staff, and you organize. And Democrats in Indiana, for example, they had been organizing. I mean, they grew their margins in Marion County in 2020, and Indiana Democrats have been targeting that for years. Marion County in Indiana is where Nikki Haley did the best. She posted above a 30-point performance, 30 points in that specific county. To me, that if I was a Republican strategist, I can't even get the comment out. If it were me, I would be concerned.
There is no political ground game right now. Right? I think everyone is, whether it's, the only talking points they have are the election is going to be stolen again. Everybody prepare election integrity. They're so worried about this election integrity task force at the RNC that they've started.
Yeah.
I think that is their focus and lane. They're not out there talking to Americans about this is actually what we're going to do about these kitchen table issues that you're so worried about. You're worried about inflation. You're worried about this. They're not actually explaining what they're going to do to fix the economy that they claim Joe Biden has been so bad at, right? I mean, they're not actually out there connecting with the voters like they need to be. And, I've said this before. They've chosen to stay behind this useless leader, and they will continue to lose elections because of it.
So why do you organize when you're just going to try to steal the election anyway?
I mean, well, they're not.
You're going to lie. You're going to lie about it anyway. You've already, your lead dog is already telling us he's won the race, and if if it's not official come November, then the whole system's rigged, right? So why do I need to organize in Indiana and Georgia and Arizona and Pennsylvania when the plan is already in place to lie about who won anyway? So
as the chairman would say, that's the rub.
That's the rub.